Hi, I'm Chris. Before we dive into my story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more. Let's get started. The day started just like any other Sunday. The sun was high and bright, casting a golden glow over Mike's family backyard, where we gathered for a casual get-together. Mike, my fiancé, was in his element, laughing and joking with his relatives. I always admired how effortlessly he connected with people, his charisma magnetic. "Hey Chris, try this." Mike beckoned me over, holding a plate of his mom's famous barbecue ribs. "You know, these gatherings wouldn't be the same without your presence," he said with a grin that reached his eyes. I laughed, playfully rolling my eyes. "Flattery will get you everywhere, Mike." As the afternoon wore on, the air filled with the sounds of children playing, adults chatting, and the clinking of glasses. I mingled, chatting about everything from work to the latest movies. Yet my eyes kept drifting back to Mike, his laughter like a beacon. Suddenly, a shout broke the jovial atmosphere. "Fire!" The word echoed through the yard, a moment of disbelief hanging in the air before chaos ensued. Smoke billowed from the gazebo area, and flames danced violently, consuming the wooden structure. "Timmy, where's Timmy?" Mike's sister screamed, her face drained of color. My heart dropped. Timmy, Mike's 8-year-old nephew, had been playing near the gazebo. Without a thought, I sprinted towards the inferno, the heat intensifying with each step. Mike's voice echoed behind me. "Chris, no, it's too dangerous." I spotted Timmy, frozen in fear under a bench, the flames inching closer. "Timmy, come to me now," I yelled, reaching out to him through the blaze. He hesitated, then lunged towards me. We turned to escape, but a burning beam collapsed, grazing my face with its fiery touch. Agony seared through me, but my only thought was getting Timmy to safety. We stumbled out of the blaze, collapsing on the grass as people rushed to our aid. The ambulance ride was a blur. I could hear Timmy's sobs and Mike's voice, fraught with worry. "You're going to be okay, Chris. You're a hero," he kept saying, but his voice sounded distant, overshadowed by my own pain. In the hospital, reality set in. My face, now heavily bandaged, throbbed with unrelenting pain. Doctors spoke in hushed tones about skin grafts and long-term recovery. I barely listened. My mind was reeling from the shock. Mike was there initially, his eyes clouded with concern. "Chris, you saved Timmy. You're amazing," he said, but his voice trembled, betraying a hint of something else. Discomfort, maybe even disgust. Days passed. Mike's visits grew shorter, his conversations with me more stilted. I could feel him pulling away, his glances at my bandaged face filled with something akin to revulsion. I overheard him once, talking to his sister. "I don't know if I can handle this," he confessed in a hushed tone, unaware I was listening. "She looks so different, and it's just hard to see her like this." Those words, unintended for my ears, hit me harder than the flames. The man I loved, the man I was going to marry, couldn't look past my scars. My heart ached with a pain no medicine could soothe. Lying in the hospital bed, surrounded by the sterile white walls, I felt a sense of loss, deeper than the physical scars that marred my face. But beneath that pain, a new determination began to stir. I was more than my appearance, more than what Mike or anyone else saw. The hospital room was quiet, except for the occasional beep of the monitor. My thoughts were a jumbled mess, swirling with memories of Mike and the fire. The door creaked open, breaking my reverie. David, the dermatologist assigned to my case, stepped in, a gentle smile on his face. "Good morning, Chris. How are you feeling today?" David asked, his tone warm and comforting. I forced a smile. "As good as one can be in a situation like this," he nodded, understanding in his eyes. "I know this is tough, but we're making progress. Your bravery has been incredible." I sighed, looking away. Bravery doesn't seem to count for much these days. David paused, then sat beside me. "I heard about Mike. I'm sorry." I shrugged, fighting back tears. "It's fine. I guess it just showed his true colors." David's voice was soft but firm. "Chris, his actions don't define your worth. You're so much more than this incident." His words were a balm, but the pain of betrayal lingered. Days turned into weeks. I started my therapy sessions, each visit a mix of physical and emotional healing. David was always there, encouraging, listening. One day, As David was checking my bandages, I asked, "Do you think I'll ever look normal again?" He paused, his hands gentle on my skin. "Chris, normal is subjective. You're healing, and that's what's important. You're beautiful, with or without these scars." I wanted to believe him, but doubt gnawed at me. Meanwhile, I heard less and less from Mike. His messages were brief, distant. It hurt, but part of me was relieved. One afternoon, Mike visited. He seemed uneasy, shifting from foot to foot. "Hey, Chris, how are you?" His voice lacked its usual warmth. "I'm getting by. What about you?" I asked, trying to keep my tone neutral. Mike looked around the room, anywhere but at me. "I've been busy, work and stuff." Silence stretched between us, awkward and heavy. Finally, I broke the silence. "Why are you really here, Mike?" He sighed, running a hand through his hair. I wanted to see how you were. And I guess I wanted to explain." "Explain what?" My voice was steady, but inside I was trembling. "It's just hard for me. Seeing you like this, I don't think I can handle it." Mike's words were like a physical blow. "So, my appearance is all that mattered to you?" I couldn't hide the hurt in my voice. "It's not just that, Chris. It's everything. The fire, the injuries. It's too much." I stared at him, the man I thought I knew. "You mean it's too much for you to see past the surface?" Mike looked down, unable to meet my gaze. "I'm sorry, Chris. I really am." His apology sounded sincere, but it was too late. The Mike I loved had vanished, replaced by a stranger. After Mike left, David found me in tears. "I'm here, Chris. You're not alone in this." His presence was a comfort, a reminder that not everyone saw me as just a scarred face. As I continued my therapy, I slowly started to reclaim my life. The road was long, filled with challenges and setbacks, but I wasn't giving up. I was rebuilding myself piece by piece. The hospital had become a second home to me, the staff familiar faces in my journey of recovery. One particular day, as David was examining my progress, he brought up a topic that caught me off guard. "Chris, have you considered joining a support group? It might be helpful to talk with others who've gone through similar experiences," David suggested. I hesitated. The thought of exposing my vulnerabilities to strangers was daunting. "I don't know if I'm ready for that." David nodded. "It's your choice. But remember, healing isn't just physical. Sharing your story can be powerful." I mulled over his words. Maybe he was right. The next week, I found myself in a small, cozy room with a group of people, each with their own story of trauma and recovery. I listened, feeling a sense of kinship. When it was my turn, I spoke about the fire, Mike, and my scars. It was liberating and terrifying all at once. "I never realized how much I tied my self-worth to my appearance until now," I admitted to the group. A woman named Maggie, with scars from an accident, shared her story next. "It's a hard journey, Chris. But look at us. We're still here, still fighting." Her words struck a chord in me. I wasn't alone in this. Back at the hospital, David and I were discussing my upcoming surgeries. "The road to recovery might be long, Chris, but I believe in you. You're stronger than you know." I smiled, feeling a newfound determination. "Thanks, David. I'm beginning to believe that too." Weeks turned into months, and slowly I started to see changes, not just in my appearance, but in my inner strength. David's constant support was a big part of that transformation. One evening, as David was updating my medical file, I broached a topic that had been on my mind. "David, I've been thinking a lot about my life, about what I want moving forward." He looked up, his expression attentive. "And what have you concluded?" "I want to start over, to build a life where my scars don't define me. I want to help others who've gone through trauma." My voice was steady, my resolve clear. David's eyes lit up. "That's a wonderful goal, Chris. You have so much to offer." Our conversations began to shift from just my recovery to life, dreams, and the future. David wasn't just my doctor anymore. He was becoming a friend, someone I could laugh and share my hopes with. One afternoon, as we were laughing over a silly joke, David suddenly grew serious. "Chris, I need to tell you something. Over these past months, my feelings for you have grown beyond just a doctor-patient relationship." I felt my heart skip a beat. His confession was unexpected, yet not unwelcome. "David, I think I feel the same way," I admitted, a mix of nervousness and excitement in my voice. We agreed to take things slow, to ensure this was the right path for both of us. Our connection deepened, built on a foundation of mutual respect and understanding. The fire had taken much from me, but it had also given me a new beginning, and I was determined to make the most of it. Months had passed since my discharge from the hospital, and life was taking on a new normal. David and I were seeing each other regularly, our relationship a beautiful blend of friendship and love. We were sitting in a cozy cafe, enjoying a quiet afternoon together. "Chris, I've never met anyone as strong and inspiring as you. You've turned your pain into purpose," David said, reaching across the table to hold my hand. I smiled, feeling a warmth in my heart. "Thanks to you, David. You helped me see my worth beyond my scars." As we were sipping our coffee, my phone buzzed. A message from Mike, a name I hadn't seen in months. My heart sank a little. "It's Mike," I said, a bit surprised. David's expression changed, a mix of concern and support. "Do you want to talk about it?" I opened the message. Mike wrote about his life, how things had changed drastically for him. He had been in an accident, similar to mine, leaving his face scarred. He was experiencing now what I went through. The stares, the whispers, the change in how people treated him. "I never understood what you went through until now. I'm so sorry, Chris," his message read. I felt a swirl of emotions, shock, a hint of satisfaction, but also sympathy. "He's had an accident. He's like me now," I told David. "Do you want to see him?" David asked, his voice calm but concerned. "I don't know. It's complicated," I replied, feeling torn. After a few days of contemplation, I decided to meet Mike. We agreed to meet at a park, a neutral place away from the prying eyes of the past. Sitting on a bench, I saw a figure approach. Mike, but not the Mike I remembered. His walk was hesitant, his face marked with scars similar to mine. "Chris, thank you for meeting me," he started, his voice lacking its former confidence. "What do you want, Mike?" I asked, my tone neutral. "I want to apologize for real this time. I was shallow, and I hurt you. I see that now," Mike said, his eyes meeting mine. I listened, the words I had longed to hear now sounding hollow. "Your apology doesn't change the past, Mike. You left when I needed you most." He nodded, accepting my words. "I know, and I'll regret that for the rest of my life. Seeing you now, strong, moving on, it's more than I deserve." There was a silence, filled with unspoken words and memories. "Why tell me this now, Mike?" I finally asked. "Because I want you to know that I understand now. I see how wrong I was, how much I lost," he replied, his voice tinged with sadness. "I've moved on, Mike. I found someone who sees me for me, not just my scars," I said, thinking of David. "I'm happy for you, Chris. Truly," Mike said, standing up. "I just needed you to know. Goodbye." As he walked away, I felt a sense of closure. The past was behind me, and my future was waiting. Returning to David, I shared what happened. "It's over, David. That chapter of my life is closed now." David wrapped his arms around me. "I'm here for you, Chris. Always." Life, with its unexpected twists and turns, had brought me to a place of profound transformation. Sitting in the small, quaint chapel, I glanced at David, his hand clasped in mine. Today was our wedding day, a day marking not just the union of two people, but the triumph of love over adversity. The chapel was filled with close friends and family, their faces beaming with joy and support. As I walked down the aisle, I felt a sense of pride and accomplishment. I had come a long way from the broken-hearted woman in the hospital bed. David looked at me, his eyes filled with love and admiration. "You're the most beautiful woman in the world," he whispered as we stood together at the altar. I smiled, feeling a rush of happiness. "And you're the most amazing man I've ever known." The ceremony was simple but heartfelt. As we exchanged vows, I thought about the journey that led me here. The pain, the healing, and finally, the love that blossomed in the most unexpected soil. At the reception, laughter and music filled the air. It was a celebration of love, of new beginnings. Amidst the festivities, I noticed a familiar face at the back. Mike. He hadn't been invited, but there he was, watching from a distance, I excused myself from David and approached Mike. "What are you doing here?" I asked, a bit surprised. "I just wanted to see you happy, Chris. And you are—" "It's more than I could have hoped for," Mike said, a genuine smile on his face. I looked at him, seeing the changes the months had brought. The arrogance was gone, replaced by a humbler, more reflective man. "Thank you, Mike. I hope you find your happiness too," I said, feeling a sense of peace. He nodded, then hesitated before speaking again. "Chris, I know I messed up. I was blind to what truly mattered, and I hurt you in the process. But now I see things clearly. I want to make things right. I want us to try again." His words caught me off guard, stirring up memories of pain and betrayal. But as I looked into his eyes, I saw sincerity and regret. "Mike, I appreciate your honesty, but it's too late," I said firmly. "I've moved on, and I'm happy now." His expression fell, disappointment evident. "But Chris, no one else understands me like you do. No one else accepts me with all my flaws." I shook my head, my resolve unwavering. "I'm sorry, Mike, but I can't go back. We've both changed, and our paths have diverged." He nodded, accepting my decision. "I understand. I just wanted you to know that I'm truly sorry." With that, I turned away, cutting the ties that bound us to the past. As I returned to David, I felt a sense of closure, knowing that I had chosen the path of happiness and self-discovery. With David by my side, I stepped into the future, leaving behind the shadows of the past. The scars remained, but they were no longer reminders of pain. They were symbols of strength, resilience, and the power of love to overcome even the darkest of times. As I danced with David under the starry sky, I knew that this was just the beginning of our journey together. And with each step, I embraced the promise of a new dawn, where love triumphed over all. And that wraps up Chris's journey, a story of strength, love, and overcoming adversity. But before you go, we want to hear from you. Have you ever forgiven someone who deeply hurt you? How did you handle it? Did you forgive and move on, or choose to cut ties? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your experiences could inspire others. And if you enjoyed Chris's story, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more.